Let's also mention the presentation here. He's 6'4". He's billed as being 6'4", 360 pounds. He's got some dreadlocks. He's got the tribal face paint. He's got a tattoo of Samoa across his stomach. We've seen, especially in more recent years, as we've celebrated the Undertaker, back in the day, creative services would have somebody do sketches of these different characters. How does that, this feels like, okay, just put the old tights on like your old man used to do, blah, blah, blah. Was there a creative services component here, or do you think it's just a simple conversation?
No, there was, drawings and suggestions. We wanted to repackage Umaga, and creative services was a very viable component of that repackaging as far as logos, action figures, all the little details, and the tattoos. Nowadays you talk about a tattoo, everybody's got tattoos.
Right.
And everybody comes out with their hair wet and tattoos, and it's all same for a lot of guys. Back in those days, those tribal tattoos were somewhat unique. So we had a very distinctive look, and creative services had a hand in how to package that, capture that, and then market it.
This is obviously this story is going to take a few twists and turns, but I do think that, there's a lot of good in this story. You think about this. This guy is a part of a tag team, has a pretty decent run. Less than a year in, he's let go because of outside of the ring activities. And, it's not too terribly long. He's not only back, but he's coming back with a monster push, not as a tag team, but solo. It's a pretty cool story. And, they're going to get over this Samoan Spike as a finishing maneuver. It's an interesting choice, Jim, because, there had been so many sort of high impact moments with 3 Minute Warning and with the Samoan Bulldozer and this big guy. You just assume, oh, he's going to do a big power move. I don't know, a power slam or something. But the Samoan Spike, this is kind of cool. We hadn't seen a lot of this in WWE.
That was an old Terry Gordy finish. They called it the Oriental Spike, that, Terry allegedly picked up while he was wrestling in Japan. And then he used that finish. You always look for a finish that you can utilize on anybody. So, the Samoan Spike could be taken by anybody, a wrestler, a referee, ring announcer, TV announcer, whatever, without killing them. And it's just a matter of how it was sold. But I thought that finish was really good. Ernie Ladd used a version of that same basic thing because Ernie would tape his thumb up, and somehow that gave him a little additional sizzle, a little extra oomph. But it wasn't a new hole, but the name of the Samoan Spike was kind of creative. And again, it would work on anybody. So that's what you look for in that situation. You can't have a finish where, your finish is a part of the finish of a military press. Somebody's not going to military press Umaga. Sorry, ain't going to happen. So, but the Samoan Spike that Umaga did use was universal. It worked for anybody that he worked with.
Let's mention too, he's got a new manager here. We alluded to it before, Armando Alejandro Estrada, and boy, did he get that over. The guy who played the character is, as we mentioned, coming up from OVW. He was trained to be a wrestler. Now he's a manager. The gimmick here with this Estrada character is he's a Cuban businessman from a family that exploited its ties to Fidel Castro to live a life of luxury, while the rest of Havana, including his extended family, lived in poverty. And he's getting himself over in a way where it probably is not the initial plan, but fans love the way he would introduce himself and roll the R's and have the quick little laugh. He does it enough to where he starts to get cheered, even though he's managing a bad guy and he himself is a heel. And of course he eventually stops introducing himself that way. His middle name is removed. It's one of those where, he was so invested in it that he made it work almost too well. Or did maybe the company not even consider, hey man, this might actually get cheered?
No, we didn't think about getting cheered, to be honest with you. At least I didn't. But he did it so well, and it was entertaining. He was kind of a comedic character.
Yeah.
He wasn't the Gary Hart menacing manager.
Right.
he was more lighthearted and more just didn't come off as a mean person. And his stuff was entertaining, and the rolling the R's was comedic. So it started getting over, and then all of a sudden you find yourself swimming upstream because the manager of your number one killer heel is getting cheered or laughed at or laughed with, whatever you want to say. So tweaks had to be made, but that's not unusual in our business where things evolve and change and so forth and are refined. And the greatest audience, the greatest measuring stick you got, the greatest marketing tool you have is the live audience. That's why right now, with no audiences to speak of, we had a great crowd last night, but it's an exception to the rule. That live audience, missing that live audience, sitting there experiencing pro wrestling in person is so missed. But I think the audience got, they would roll the R's with him and became an audience participation thing. And it's just probably not the thing you're looking for from the guy that's managing your top heel.
Let's also mention that we've got a pretty big moment here coming. April 3rd, 2006, as we said, Allstate Arena in Chicago. It is the Raw after WrestleMania. Umaga's going to make his debut, but here's how it happens. Estrada picks a fight with the Nature Boy, Ric Flair, telling him he's too old to be in the business. And then Umaga attacks Ric Flair in his debut at the orders of Estrada. It's kind of interesting. He makes his in-ring TV debut on April 10th from Milwaukee, defeating a guy known as Chris Guy. Of course, these days we know him as Colt Cabana. How fun is that? That one of his first matches as Umaga is beating Colt Cabana.
I didn't know that. That's interesting. Funny how things like that are retraceable.
Yeah.
And discoverable, so to speak. Well, Colt's a solid hand, no doubt about that. He knew where to be and when to be there. But, starting off with an issue with Flair, I think just signified to the audience that WWF is serious about this big son of a gun, and he's already knocked off the Nature Boy.
Yeah. And that's a great point. Listen, Shelton Benjamin is a beloved figure by this point in the company, but debuting against Shelton compared to debuting against Ric Flair, no comparison. He's going to ultimately defeat Flair at Backlash on April 30th in Lexington. He gets a win in just like 3 minutes with the Samoan Spike. So not only is he beating Flair, he's beating him quick. And after this, he lays waste to pretty much the whole roster of Raw. He's got a feud going against, of all people, Eugene. And during that time, he beats up Viscera, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, at Vengeance 06 in Charlotte, the event that's best known for when DX returned. Umaga crushed Eugene, who had Doink, Hacksaw, and Kamala in his corner. On July 17th at the AT&T Center in San Antonio, Umaga actually pinned John Cena after the Samoan Spike. And on the July 31st Raw from East Rutherford, New Jersey, he picks up perhaps an even more rare win, a victory over Shawn Michaels. You want to talk about a vote of confidence? Hey buddy, we're going to start you going over Flair. And then this summer we'll let you beat John Cena. A couple weeks later, we'll even let you beat Shawn Michaels. My goodness. What a push.
Yeah. Push. We all love the push. Can you believe the most inscripted autograph I've done on Under the Black Hat, that we sign at jrsbarbecue.com is something that has to do with the push. The push has gotten over and people will have fun with it, so forth and so on. But Umaga had fun with his push because here's the thing. He saw that Vince was very serious about pushing him. He knew that if the rocket ship remained attached, as Michael Hayes indicated earlier, that he was going to make a lot of money. And he did make a lot of money. He did really, really well. But he saw that the old man was committed to the character. You don't feed Umaga all these guys that we just mentioned if you're not serious. So it all worked, and of course then it led to WrestleMania in 2007.